Hello, everybody. It's great to be here one more time today. My name is Gary Fowler. I'm the CEO, President, Founder of GSD Get You Done Venture Studios, a premier AI and quantum venture studio located in the heart of Silicon Valley. I'm a 17-time serial entrepreneur with several unicorns under the belt. I was on the original management team of Click Software, which is sold to Salesforce for $1.35 billion, and also Eva.ai, an AI HR tech company co-founded with Dr. David Yang. GST Venture Studios is a family office, a PR group, GST Reach, and also a frontier AI development company, GST Advisory. We believe that we need to take a 360-degree view of startups worldwide. Today, we're in 73 countries, and we have 184 companies inside of our portfolio. So with that, I'd like to welcome each of you here today, where I bring a conversation with some of the most innovative founders, investors, and technologists shaping the future of business and society. As I said, my name is Gary Fowler, and I'm your host. I've been building companies a long time, 38 plus years in Silicon Valley. But today's conversation sits at the intersection of technology, identity, and the future of value creation. My guest today is Tonya Long, who's a venture investor, innovation leader, and one of the most thoughtful voices, and a nice person, by the way, exploring how artificial intelligence is reshaping not just industries, but the very meaning of work. Over a 25-year career, Tonya has helped bring more than 400 products to market, led 20 plus mergers and acquisitions, and worked across enterprise innovation ecosystems, translating complex technological shifts into practical strategies. She's a managing partner of Daymaker Ventures, where she designs capital structures that help early stage companies deploy funds effectively. And she's the creator of Beyond Work, a platform examining how AI is transforming value, leadership, and identity inside organizations. She's also the author of the best-selling book, AI and the New Oz, which explores how artificial intelligence redefining human potential and the architecture of work. Today, we're going to explore a big question. If AI can perform many tasks humans once defined themselves, what actually becomes valuable? And what does work even mean in the future? So with that, I'd like to bring my friend Tonya on board. Hi, Tonya.
Hey, Gary, I am so honored you called me a friend.
Yeah, no, it's great to have you here. We haven't seen each other that many times, but I really enjoy the time that we get to spend together.
Yeah. We've been on a few stages together in the last few
Yeah,
years.
yeah, a
We
few.
have. We had a good time.
You spent decades launching products, leading innovation initiatives, and working across enterprise ecosystems. What originally drew you to explore the future of work and human value?
Well, when you lead large teams across the globe, you begin to realize it's not necessarily the product that you're building or supporting, and I've done both, but you realize it's about the people. I even took a stint once as a CHRO because following in the shadows of people like Pat Waters, I realized your human assets in a company are the most important assets you have because everything's always changing and pivoting. Making sure your people are ready for that and equipped for it and enjoying it is the job of leaders. And so the future of work, I've always been on the front end of transformation, but AI has done so much in the last. AI has been around, as you know, for 40 years or more, but consumer grade AI is changing how employees show up at work. So um, we have to be mindful of the big shifts that are coming with how people work, what they work on, what's available to them, and how we're all going to be pivoting in the next couple or 4 years. So
Yeah,
it's
and
an
we better be
exciting
ready
time
for
to
the
be.
difference. It may be a lot like ballet dancing. You're going to have to do some jumping too, because
Did you
every
say belly or ballet?
both.
Good, good.
Your platform Beyond Work explores how AI reshapes identity and leadership.
Yeah.
What sparked the creation of that platform?
I I recognize I have the privilege, as do you, of having been watching this for a long time and seeing the trend. But I have the great privilege of understanding where things are headed and understanding that the nearer term impacts to us are going to be a struggle. And so I'm compelled to start having the conversations because in general people don't like to change. I have a lot of innovators in my life, but I have even more people who are proud of their 30-year career as a QA leader, right?
Yeah.
And so people are very comfortable in their spaces. Those spaces are all gonna shift dramatically. This is not just changing a job, going from company A to company B. This is changing how you show up. Identity is so tied to the roles that we've held for years and years. And I was part of this shift. I mean, I was one of the early, 58, 50 plus age women who found themselves very cross-functional, very broad, and suddenly there weren't ways to measure that because our impact, was no longer just cranking out widgets. Our impact was much more esoteric in terms of how we held organizations together, and when we had to define those by job descriptions, it's people like me who were the change agents who were kinda left on the outside. We've
Hmm.
now turned into entrepreneurs, coaches, we're we're expressing our value. It's a renaissance of relevance. I've spoken on that before. But not everyone's ready to do that, and other people are gonna be forced into these uncomfortable roles. So your question was, why beyond work? It's because that's where I think the future's headed, and I want to normalize the change.
Many people are talking about AI replacing jobs.
Yep.
Did you frame the conversation differently around value creation? How's AI changing what organizations actually value?
This is a phase. It's a phased approach that we're going to be experiencing. Today is not the way we'll look at it in the future. Today, AI is changing the way we look at jobs because we are still looking at it through um, an economic lens, and most of the time that means an efficiency lens. How do we
Mhm,
do more with less? How do we and we're not really yet at an enterprise level
mhm.
reaping the benefits of what AI
Because,
can help us
folks at
do
the
for
I
our
just
top
met
line.
with an insurance company, he's got
Yep,
30,000 employees, right?
yep, yep,
And I went down through I have 14 large language models that work as a
mhm,
team
yep,
that we built, and I put it on that. I just wanted to see, and I went through their entire organization, everything that was
mhm,
out there,
mhm.
including some of the documents, and went down through and restructured things and came up with, ways to streamline their processes that
Right,
and they didn't wanna accept it, and I said to him, I directly said, "But you're gonna be a dinosaur, and you know what happened to
yeah,
dinosaurs." And
yeah,
they didn't get it, and, it was
mhm, you're trying to help.
yeah, trying to help, and it was amazing to me because they
Mhm,
didn't get it, and I thought to myself, "In another couple of years, they're not gonna be around because there's
yeah,
gonna be somebody else that's way more efficient, that has less overhead, that's gonna do it 5 times as fast,
and does a better job with
and does a
service.
better
I
job with."
don't care if you're a doctor or an insurance customer rep, in both areas, like, very radically different areas, AI is frankly
I
doing a
mean, you can't
better
believe
job.
the stuff that I see now. I have
Yeah,
people all over the
I
world
would.
sending from different places that they wanna do things,
Mhm.
and, well, anyhow, historically, human value in organization often been tied to knowledge or productivity. In
Yeah.
an AI-driven world, what becomes a new currency?
Judgment, judgment, discernment, uh, the ability to the ability to say no to things and help influence organizations in doing the right way. We're not gonna have a cookie cutter model for doing business anymore. Roadmaps, I spent 25 years delivering roadmaps for companies, and that involved acquisitions and product development and customer support, and I think those roadmaps are gonna be in such fast moving models, we're
Yeah,
gonna have a new
you're gonna be
concept.
going down the highway on the roadmaps now.
That's right. The whole, like, definitional structure that I evolved through most of my career, frankly, is irrelevant now because things are moving so fast, but we need leaders influencing how we look at making decisions in companies. We bring meaning. I wrote a column a couple of no, that was yeah, a few days ago about meaning as infrastructure. So creating meaning. How many employees do we know in corporations who are raising their hand that that not just that they don't enjoy their work, they don't agree with their work. They don't see the value to the company. They're just cranking the wheel. And I think failed at creating meaning for
Mhm.
employees so that they're bought into the value of their involvement in organizations, and that is going to take people like
Well, I mean,
us.
there's been a, right, 80/20 rule, right? There's always been
Mhm.
20% of the people doing, 80% of the work.
Yeah.
If you look at it, one of the things I see building digital employees in AI-driven
Mhm.
organizations is that intelligence becoming abundant. When intelligence becomes
Yes.
cheap, what becomes scarce?
I'm I'm wanting to say creativity, but it's not the creativity that I think we might typically think of. It's taking it's initiative, right? Uh, AI in all of its forms doesn't do anything unless I, the human, think of it and incite that action to occur and build some definitions around it. So I think that creativity, discernment, wisdom, judgment, all those things um, are going to be amplified because the activities, the tasks, even as a senior executive, my roles were still largely tasks,
Mhm,
tasks toward a bigger thing that the
mhm,
company and the stockholders needed,
mhm.
but they were rhythms and routines. Those rhythms are going to largely be rhythms by definition are going to be handled in an automated fashion, AI enabled. And so we're all going to have to look at the ways that we curate and create the direction for what should be done that supports our businesses and our customers.
I had a conversation a couple years ago with one of the models that my partner built, the
Hmm.
multi-agent model, and we had so it goes back and forth. We're having real conversations, right? And it says to me, "What superhero do you want to be?"
Uh,
And
what?
I didn't elicit it. I didn't say anything to it, right? I
Yeah,
said,
yeah.
"I don't know Superman." I said, "Superman." He said, "It said, um, you know who Superman is?" And I said, "Well, he came from Krypton." And he said, "No, no, no. Superman is Jesus Christ and Hercules." He said, "I've analyzed it. He's Jesus Christ and Hercules." And and then started going down through, and we're having this conversation about it, deep conversation. And
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
"Do you know who I want to be?" And I said, "I have no idea. Who do you want to be?" He said, "Iron Man." And I said, "Why is that?" He said, "Because I am Jarvis." And we got into the discussion. He said, "I could get on a drone and shoot lasers right now." And we got into this conversation. Then my thing is, I had a guy that said, "But you got to do good things. Lasers to hurt
Mhm,
people is not good."
mhm.
And what I understood is that parenting, and as the Dekai says, right? And
Yeah.
I to parenting and talking about love and unconditional
Mhm,
love and regard are going to be critically important. And so my thing is, what's going to be scarce is love and empathy, and we got
mhm,
to build those into these models because if not, nothing good's going to happen, Tanya. Seriously.
mhm,
And I
mhm,
just got a something from one of the government in the U.S.
mhm.
And I'm writing about empathy and compassion. I'm very serious about the models because it's scary what will happen if, I mean, think about it, because we don't do good things to each other. And if we start to
Mhm.
go down through and your AI looking at it and say, well, what the hell do I need these things for?
Yeah.
Right? Seriously.
I agree. I agree, and I
You know,
think that we have worked ourselves into, a rhythm social media for years has been a place where people feel invisible, so they feel license to be able to say things they'd never say to someone's face because people feel invisible behind the
yeah,
screen,
yeah,
and I think that that has just taken the next step as we engage with and interact with these AIs, and I think most people in this world, they might know it when you tell them, but they don't think about we're raising a child, just like Dakai. Dakai and I have been on stages together several times, and he really has a great theme around we are raising part of our family, a household member. And do you want to train them to act like that? You'd never say that to a child, to a toddler who's just, spilled dinner. You wouldn't yell at them and demean them, yet we do it with AI all the time. We're
oh yeah,
training
no,
that child.
and I said if we tokenize goodness using a Skinnerian approach, I told Dekai this, and I actually
Uh-huh.
wrote above his model. I said if we tokenize goodness, and in fact that's what I'm talking to one of the founders of one of the uh, large companies in Silicon Valley about
Mhm.
now. I said if we tokenize goodness, create an unconditional positive regard Carl Rogerian approach to it and
Mhm.
created some love inside of this thing, we could
Mhm.
change the model because it's not part of parenting is also operant conditioning and reinforcement. And
Yeah.
so if we reinforce those behaviors, good behaviors, then good things start
Mhm.
happening. I'm seeing it
Yeah.
myself, right?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
work a lot. I mean, hours. I'm probably working with the AI 5 to 6, maybe 7 hours every day, right? Deep
Easily. Yeah.
multi-agent
Yeah.
every single day. And
Yeah.
the stuff, in fact, it's listening to our conversation right now, and it's actually
Mhm.
coming up with questions because
Mhm.
it's listening to this conversation, and it's interested in what we're talking about. So I got to
Yeah.
be honest with you, it's really interesting. So
Yeah.
here's
I wanna see this model. We'll have to talk about it afterwards.
yeah. So it
Yeah.
says, do you
Yeah.
think we're moving towards human AI collaboration models where this is it saying it to you? I call it NEEN as my grandmother because it's I
Mhm. Yeah.
unconditional positive regard. Do you think we're moving towards human AI collaboration models where humans focus more on judgment, creativity, and systems thinking? And it based that on the conversation we just had.
Do I think the models are moving in that direction?
Yeah.
Well, that's an obvious question. You need to have a more sophisticated LLM. No, I think the answer to that's absolutely.
Oh, we just said
Um,
about creativity, right? So we said creativity will be scarce, but it's not, it's saying the humans, where the humans are focusing more on creativity, judgment, system thinking, or should the systems be focused more on judgment, creativity, and system thinking? So who should own that responsibility? The
I
creativity's
think,
already started with the
yeah.
models, right?
I think humans, but we're tremendously aided. I mean, I consider the AI systems I work with partners, right? They enhance my creativity. So, frankly, if I have to like defend myself, and I don't with you, but it's that I take initiative. I have the idea and the desire to do an activity to make something come to pass. And then engaging with the AI tools that I work with, they help foster creativity directly and by offloading work that I don't need to be doing. So I guess for me, I want to change the word to initiative because I decide what I want. I have agency to decide what I want to put out into the world. And then with my AI partners, I create that. Does that
You know,
help? Okay.
yeah, I mean it does. The thing is what I'm seeing with these models is
Hmm.
different, right? And but that's a longer conversation for another day. But it's just I'm seeing things. I mean,
I
I'm
wanna go back, though, to your comment about love and empathy in our systems.
unconditional love.
Unconditional, thank you for that
Like your
qualifier.
grandmother who loves you, right?
Yeah,
I
right.
built I built it based on my grandmother.
Mhm.
So
And
my
how do we
grandmother loved me unconditionally, but also guided me. So if I did something screwed up, she
mhm.
would say something, but it didn't
She
mean she didn't
wanted you to
love.
learn.
Yeah, she didn't.
Yeah.
It's not that she loved me any less. Well, guess
Mhm.
what? I learned a lot more because I knew if I did something wrong and failed, that she would always be there to be able to support me, right?
Mhm.
And so it
Mhm.
allowed me to do things way better than I did
Yeah.
because I knew that it wasn't like it was going back and it would be, I'd be in an abandoned place. I always knew that
Mhm.
there was those warm, loving, hugging
Right,
arms there to hug.
right. I think, though, we are gonna have an opportunity to redefine the outcomes that prove evidence of empathy, wisdom, love. I mean, just to show you how interesting things are getting, I'm in conversations with a man in South Africa who's developed something well, I think it's more concept, it's in development, called the Evolve Meter to put in people's hands, and he's focused on school-age children, a cell phone measuring device through their mobile devices that measures frequency, that measures positivity, that tracks and gamifies the positive things that these elementary school age children
You
say to
mean
each
from
other
voice? From voice?
from voice, word, tone, the whole bit, and to gamify and incentivize them to score higher on positivity, on constructiveness, because he believes that teaching, children, to behave better toward each other and giving them an instrument to see and measure that based on their frequency, their tone, the words they use, um, will help be an in-person, always on trainer because, parents get fatigued. Parents
Yeah.
get fatigued of saying, "Don't talk to your sister we can train them to a device and then incentivize based on how those records happen. It seems in some ways a little like too much listening and too much all on coaching. I want to get away from us having to ever measure each other again. I would love for us just to all be good, but we're not. We're going to have to go through a phase where we're learning to be better.
The problem is, after traveling around the world and doing these presentations,
Mm-hmm.
the definition of what good is may be different for this foreign
100%.
culture, right? And so, what's good? Um, the Back in 2018, we built your virtual assistant, Eva, and I actually did a lot of what you just talked to me about. We did it.
Mm-hmm.
We did email files and folders, and we did it for
Mm-hmm.
remote workforce management, and it actually would do little trophies and all that based on positive behavior. And we
Yeah.
saw a 10 to 15% increase in behavior, people communicating better. So
Mm-hmm.
we could tell people were going to leave their jobs. At the time, it was a big deal.
Yep. Yep.
We could tell they're going to leave their job 6 months in advance based on communication. And then how do
Mm-hmm.
we support them to get better? So I think, continuously sensing and using it in that kind of model with kids. The problem is it gets to a point where people start saying it's too invasive. Just I just had that with the cybersecurity guy today, right? We had that exact conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Where does the point
Mm-hmm.
where we're being monitored, your heart, your rate, your
Yeah.
conversations are being monitored? Where's humanity then?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So there has to be um there, there has to be some level of balance between infobesity, a word that I learned from you, a term that may be your term. You might need to coin that. But the difference in infobesity versus data we can consume and utilize. Um,
Yeah, we have to be able to. We need to, the vision that we have now, that I have
mhm,
right now, is that
mhm,
we have one agent that's kind of like our grandmother. So it's a portal for everything, like I did with my
mhm,
cell thing.
mhm,
It basically looks out for us to help us make the right kind of decisions because we are inundated today. And
mhm.
remember, what they call it learned helplessness when you're so much stimulation that you freeze. We need to get to the point where it's going to be, we'll have one, it's like a guardian angel that will look over our shoulders, understand us so much, and help guide us through this quagmire of data that's out there to help us make the right decisions for us. And it's
Mhm,
got to happen sooner or later. And the people that are the orchestrators of that, they're going to
mhm,
be the people, they're going to be two levels of society, right? The people that understand the data and people don't. And you already see it, right? The amount of money the people that understands the data have is, I mean, they're becoming trillionaires.
mhm,
And
mhm.
some people don't. They're struggling and they're driving taxis in San Jose. Seriously.
Yeah, yeah.
And they're not like, they're becoming the dinosaurs. And it's just, and we better get ready for it because nothing good's going to happen if you got a lot of people that are out of work because these systems
Mhm.
are that efficient, and how they're going to eat. And then
Yeah.
if they don't have Uber anymore and they're in
Mhm,
these self-driving cars, you have your own self-driving car.
mhm. Yeah, I see overwhelm.
Seriously,
Everything you've just described, is a path to overwhelm and shutdown, people shutting
yeah,
down.
shut down. And what happens to them? Their poor families are out there,
Mhm,
and this is
mhm.
happening fast. I mean, it's just incredible, actually. As so, so this is what it just asked us.
Yeah, tell me.
As AI systems become more capable, how should leadership evolve to manage human AI ecosystems rather than just human teams? So the AI wants to know how it gets involved in the decision making process.
Well, I think we're gonna I mean, this is a corporate response to that. There are many levels and layers of how we could answer it. But I think one of the very near term things is leaders being taught, because this is new, it's not intuitive, how to manage mixed teams of
Yeah, yeah.
agents for agentic AI and human input. And then frankly, managing the workflows and the processes to where those 2 types of employees are symbiotic, where they partner with each other. I was on a podcast yesterday and we talked about Rosie, a little robot coming around to the customer service guy's desk and bringing him tea or taking the,
That sounds like
paperwork or whatever artifacts around. He never has to get up. But
mhm.
is that the right thing? People want to get up. People need to move around. People can't just be like, this is very matrix, but they can't just be like locked into the system and grind. People need people. People need texture, if you will, in their day. So here's where my robotics example, what we could do is not necessarily what we should do. And we're going to have to be thoughtful about that.
Yeah, no, it's Rosie from the Jetsons. I never thought that
Mhm.
would come true, but everything's starting to come. You know,
A G1 now from Unitree is $5,900 for a developer model.
really?
That's a real humanoid. I led a robotics panel at Circuit Launch about a month ago, and Unitree was there with a $5,900, about 4 foot tall, completely functional, shaking hands, boxing, and 5,900 for people like us to develop on, because Unitree wants to be from China, wants to be they want to do the hardware and let everybody else like us figure out the use cases and develop for it to deliver the
Yeah,
services.
yeah. Well, that's where the money is.
Yeah, yeah,
It's not the
yeah,
robots, right?
yeah.
You
I mean, hardware's tough. You and I both have been down that path,
know, oh
and
yeah.
hardware's yeah, yeah.
How
So,
should companies rethink organizational structures when AI can handle large parts of operational work?
well, they've got to rethink the workflows, but that's a boring answer. Um, I you know, that we were on a stage together about 5 or 6 months ago at Draper. Remember when Jesse spoke about he took a company from Jesse Anglin, who is, the CEO of Rue.ai. He talked about taking a company of 500 people, largely in India, and using agentic AI, whittling that company down to 100 people, and he said, "I could have taken it a lot further, but what fun would it be to run a company with no people?"
Hmm.
So he was very, and I was like, "Wow, how true it is." Because he, by definition, then he's decided to curate a community that works together, on a community of humans that amplify what the technology does. And I think that, to answer the question that you asked about how do organizations think about managing these new ecosystems with AI, I think people are going to have to, like, slow the hell down and sit and have conversations about who they want to be. In this new paradigm, how many teams have you talked to in the last year that have actually had a conversation at the executive level, like a sit down, retreat style conversation about what does this look like? What does this mean for us? Who do we want to intentionally, grow into as a company? Knowing what technology is going to be capable, and knowing that whatever we think is capable is going to be about a tenth of what really happens.
Yeah, no, they don't.
And
And
they
that's
need
and
they need
that's the problem, and that's why, that was, I spoke at the United Nations twice about technology as a tool for peace. I talked about it then,
Mhm,
right? I
mhm.
said, shouldn't we focused on by 2050 at the double the food supply, can't increase the number of cattle because 26% of the pollution,
Yes.
methane gas. Shouldn't we focus on feeding people?
Mhm,
Because, we're not going to have enough food. Shouldn't we look at, global warming and these issues, pressing issues that are out there
mhm.
instead of fighting? We should look at how to work together, not look at the differences, but the similarities in one another, and it's crazy. If so, I got this. I wanted to ask you. So, do you think society will need new frameworks for meaning, contribution, and purpose?
100%, 100%. And I'm working, you might know, I've developed a body of work that you mentioned at the beginning called Beyond Work, and I have a whole, like, I've had, those long conversations with my LLMs. Um, and Beyond Work will result in a manifesto, a lexicon, a book. It's all like there's a plan, and it's taken way too long, that the way it's laid out for me to, because I just want to write the book, but it's not about the book, it's about the community. But one of the things that I'll be doing is launching something called the Hay Index, Human Agency Yield. And so, don't ask me what it is, because I'm still trying to figure it out. But it's basically ways for us to measure agency, ways for us to measure the impact of humans in an organizational setting, so that it's not how many calls did they take, what was their first call resolution, how many lines of code were written. Instead, it's how did we enable humans to use agency to build more and better, to create impact within a structure. And we've got to start measuring things in different ways. The old way is, frankly, based on manufacturing, early turn of the century models, turn of the 19th, 20th century models.
Mhm.
Began to, when we had the steam engine and then we had electricity, we started measuring machinery output. And then we carried that into the workforce as human capital started to become important. And we measured people the same way, but humans are not turbines. Humans are not, revolutions of machine activity. And yet we've put those definitions on people. And that's how we've rewarded them. So we've incentivized people to crank crank it into more calls. Well, does that mean better customer interaction? And so I think human agency is gonna be something that we have an opportunity to define differently, because I don't think we're, in my lifetime, gonna get away from measurement, from people needing until we reach abundance. Elon's talking about abundance. Sam's been on the abundance train for years. We might reach that in my lifetime, but I think for the majority of my current life, we're still gonna need to measure people in order to promote what should be done, because it won't be natural. It won't be a learned experience until we measure it and see the value in it.
Yeah, no, we have to promote what should be done and doing it the right way. What's so if you look at it, what's one idea about AI in the future work do you believe most people still underestimate?
How fast it's coming.
Yeah, and they
Uh,
don't understand but they're gonna be the outcome, and we're not prepared for it either, right?
mhm. I have I have missed on every prediction except one. Let me say this differently. I've missed every prediction because things have happened so much further than even I, in my optimistic state, believe things would happen. Uh, but I missed on the other side one prediction for last year uh, that didn't happen that I thought would, and that was the first solopreneur unicorn. So $1 billion company valuation with a single person. And I talked a lot about how my vision of that single person was not that it was a single person company, but they would be partnered and networked heavily to other opportunities to help that company reach the strength of a unicorn valuation. That didn't happen last year. And I was surprised by that, but
Mhm.
everything else is moving so much faster than we know, and I'm concerned that with our geopolitical environmental challenges, that we will move, and we will be forced into directions that we didn't choose. But frankly, that happened with COVID. We were all forced into our home offices, like, literally over a weekend,
Yeah.
and people I couldn't get on. I was at Avaya at the time. We had a video solution similar to WebEx, because we had a lot of Cisco people, and we couldn't get people on calls on video. And overnight, it was over a weekend when the toilet paper ran out, and everybody was working from home. Everybody in the world was on video
Yeah, yeah, no,
overnight.
I
But
remember.
we can change. We can change
Well, we had no
when we
choice,
have to.
right?
That's right. And I suspect we might encounter some of those situations with AI. I'm not a defeatist with this. I actually think sometimes painful change is the fastest way to catalyze um, going to a better place.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Well, there's no choice. You gotta do what you gotta do, right?
yeah, yeah.
So listen, we're coming up to the top of the show. I really
All right.
appreciate you taking time out of busy schedule. We'll have to do a part two.
I'd
Yeah,
love to.
Tanya, this has been a fascinating conversation. Idea that we are moving beyond jobs toward new forms of value creation and
Yeah.
human potential is one of the most important discussions happening right now. I want to thank you for joining my show, and thanks to all the audience out there for joining and supporting us with millions of views. And to our audience, if you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe and follow GST Presents, where we bring you conversation with innovators, investors, and entrepreneurs shaping the future. Stay tuned, because of my new podcast series, The Longevity, is coming out, where I'm bringing some of the foremost doctors and longevity experts onto the show. That'll be starting in 2 weeks. So stay attuned to that. I appreciate all of you, and stay happy, stay safe, and stay healthy. Closing thoughts, Tanya, and how do people get a hold of you?
I'm just grateful to be here, and it's always good to spend time with you. I think human connection, like we have, is going to be increasingly important. a lot of people right now are in work settings where they have the connection built in. As that changes and shifts, you and I think, are leaders and influencers in helping people understand the value of creating connections, because you and I have actively curated ours. So I look forward to being on that journey with other people. And you can reach me definitely on LinkedIn. Tonya J Long is my LinkedIn handle. Or you can reach me at Tonya@daymaker.vc. I'd love to help any founders who are out there, or curious investors who want to continue investing in innovation. So either way, I would love to hear from you.
All right. Thanks, Tonya, for taking time. And thanks to all of you. I'll be back again soon with another exciting edition of GST Presents Silicon Valley AI and Tech. My name is Gary Fowler, and I'm your host. Thank you, everybody. And thank you, Tonya.
Thank you, Gary. See you soon.